Here at the Customer Catalyst, customer engagement is close to our hearts, and I'm delighted to welcome Christina Miluzzi and Emma Roffi from Cisco, who are here to discuss their global program of customer engagement with Dan Cote from Influitive, our platinum partner.
Well, thanks for joining this session, How Cisco Puts Customers at the Heart of Its Growth Strategy. My name is Dan Cote. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Influitive, and we are the platinum sponsor for the Customer Catalyst Conference. And I have the pleasure today to be joined by Christina Miluzzi, Global Head of Customer Advocacy, and Emma Roffi, Vice President of Marketing for EMEA and the Global Advocacy Lead. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, to get things started, I'd maybe just like to start off with some introductions and understand the areas of responsibilities for either of you.
Yeah, sure. So I'll go first, as you say, Emma Roffi. So I'm responsible for the marketing across the EMEA region, which is Europe, Middle East, Africa, and Russia. We always add that on the end, not to forget Russia. And also relatively recently taken on the global lead for customer and partner advocacy and community building. So I've been in Cisco donkey's years, don't know, too many to remember. So lots of experience within Cisco, primarily all within marketing, in probably all of the various functions and departments.
I'm Christina Miluzzi and I lead global customer advocacy at Cisco. I joined Emma's team almost 5 years ago. This started out as an initiative in the EMEA region. It was so successful that it was decided that we would launch it globally. So we're now a global organization of almost 20 people running customer advocacy. And Emma's also, as she mentioned, responsible for partner advocacy. So the program started with around about 100 customers that we nurtured through to 20,000 customers today.
This sounds a little bit like a chicken and egg. So did Cisco put its customers at the heart before this customer advocacy program, or did the success of this customer advocacy program help spring and bring that into the center?
Yeah, good question. So Cisco, I suppose we've transitioned of late, because if you ask many people within Cisco, we would take, you look at where the power is, we would take a very technology first view. We're obsessed with our fantastic technology. And so we would always lead with that. And we would shout about that in the market to anybody and everyone who cared to listen, quite frankly. And we always put the technology at the heart. And I'd say a few years ago, then we shifted to have that real customer focus and really think not just about the bits and bytes of the technology, but the outcomes of the technology. Because ultimately we needed to speak to the customers in their language, in what they were interested. Some of them, yes, they're interested in the bits and bobs of it all, but otherwise everyone wants to know, well, okay, that's good, but what does the technology do for us? And with digital transformation, then I've seen data and it said that, all companies think they're technology companies now because they're understanding what the technology will enable them to do. So we've pivoted a lot stronger on putting the customer at the heart and being what I call customer obsessed. Because if we're not customer obsessed and we don't get our messaging from the marketing and the relevancy to the customer, depending on the segment they're in, depending on the industry in, and talk to them in the language that they want to hear. Because there's so much out there, we have to cut through the noise. You can only cut through that noise if you are relevant, and you have to therefore be customer assessed in order to do that. So absolutely, from the mission statement of the company through to anyone you ask, the customer is at the heart of it. So from a marketing point of view, then when Christina, it all started, and we can go into that a bit later, but it all went into how do we change our customer storytelling? And that was the real trigger, because we had, like a lot of companies doing, still today, sort of talking head videos that still we talk about Cisco, or we did talk about Cisco more than we spoke about the outcome that the customer is achieving and the real story that the customer are able to tell. But I'd say one of the biggest shift has been around personalization with all our marketing tools and just speaking to the right person, the right time, with the right message. So that's what we do more broadly. And then the advocacy platform, which Christina, can't even say your name, Christina can talk about, is more, yes, and where that's come from and where that's growing now. So over to you, Christina.
Yeah, so when we started this program initially, Emma was talking a little bit about the different personas just then. So we started out very much with one persona really. It was the technology buyer or the network engineer. We identified that there were a small handful, around about 100 customers in EMEA that were already participating in some kind of advocacy initiative with us, whether it was through customer stories or presenting at events. But we really needed to open that out to the whole community of customers, and not just the technology specialists within organizations, but to Emma's point, more line of business, also within the operations side of the organization, who are now having more of an impact and more decision making in technology buying. So we really needed to think about how we could broaden our personas to open more of a conversation around industry, around segment, but also to get together more common interest groups. So one of the things Emma mentioned earlier that Cisco traditionally was quite guilty of, and probably is still quite guilty of today, is that we're very good at creating content that looks beautiful, that tells the story in a perfect way, but it doesn't always come across as authentic. And really, that's what we're looking to try and solve with the community and with the platform. Is Cisco is trying to step back and enable our customers to have that peer-to-peer conversation together without Cisco always stepping in or without always polishing what a customer has said. Because what we want our community to experience is the authentic, the real first-person experience of that individual. And sometimes that can be, of course, the good side, but also what are some of the pitfalls? Because essentially, trust is built when that open communication is built. So when peers can share openly and authentically what's great about their investment, but also what's not so great, that builds that trust and authenticity, but also drives that loyalty with the brand as well. So within the community, within the platform that we've built on Influitive, we're really looking to, as much as possible, enable that community, that peer-to-peer sharing, without always having Cisco stepping in to polish it, let's say.
Well, it's exactly what was on my mind around, from a marketer perspective, you think that with authenticity, you have to give up polish, you have to give up some control and let the voice be heard in their own words. And maybe it includes some warts along the way, because that validates the authenticity. You're not trying to control it.
Yeah, and I'd say, Dan, I'd add, it's sort of, when we launched this, it all came at a time, and still is, where if you look at any research and you look at what influences you, whether it's the vendor website, it's third-party websites, it's whatever, white papers or stuff, the peer-to-peer references, the peer-to-peer validation, and we know over the years it's crept further up and further up and further up, and where we live in this, well, we did at the start, we called it like this TripAdvisor world, where we trust, you can see how that's grown, then we needed to be able to facilitate that. And that was another key driver for us to drive this authentic voice.
And so by engaging with your customers, and particularly IT and tech people, are they willing to share their voice and share their opinions on these social review sites or other forms of communication? Or are they more hesitant to do that?
So that's a really great question, actually, and it's something that comes up a lot across the business. Is why would customers participate? Why would they get involved? So there's this sort of two sides of the story there. So technology, the technology persona, let's say, can sometimes be a little bit more introverted than some of the other personas that we would target. So we're always looking at ways that we can help and support and encourage that particular persona to want to share, to want to build their own peer-to-peer network, and also to grow their personal brand. And once it's kind of like it's a bit like it's infectious. When they see one of their peers doing it, whether it be sharing their story on LinkedIn or whether it's having a spotlight on some of our social media channels, and they see the value, of course, that encourages their peer community to do the same. So
does any of that play in particular personas that you're engaging with? Or are people taking the friendly competition around something like that to engagement and share feedback?
Surprisingly, I have to say, when we first launched this program, I didn't expect there to be such a high engagement with some more senior folks within organizations. I thought this would be more targeted at early in career, people that were a bit more socially savvy, people that already have quite a strong social presence. Or understand how communities work. But it just so happens that I think naturally, people love a bit of competition, and it could be a CIO or a senior person within an organization just as well as it could be an early in career type of individual. So the game mechanics and the reward and recognition is actually valuable to all of our customers. It doesn't matter what level or what position they have in the organization. And what we've worked really hard to do is to build reward, recognition and gamification that is directly associated to that type of person. So whether it be, for example, a senior decision maker in a company, a technical decision maker, might be interested in, they're interested in the game mechanics, but also they're interested in the kind of rewards that they can redeem, which could be, for example, a private meeting with our CEO or lunch with an executive at Cisco Live. So we really build the program around what's important to the individual.
So maybe, Emma, if you could share a little bit, like customer advocacy programs typically are born out of, and at least initially managed out of a marketing department. And you're the head of global advocacy, the lead of all this, and you're seeing the success of that program and how it can evolve to beyond marketing. Has it changed the way you think about your marketing program in general and the marketing initiatives and programs you do?
Yeah, so it's enabled us in a fewfold, actually. Firstly, sometimes when you're in large organizations, then teams work in silos. So what it's enabled us to do is break down some of those silos. The reason being is it's primarily the marketing folks that we deal with. I'll come back to the sales side, but on the marketing side and on the engineering side, if you like, then it's seen, for better description, it's seen as a channel. So that everyone knows we've got this advocacy platform. We've got 18 to 20,000, customers in there, very active. Then people want to target them or need feedback, then they see that as a channel. So I've noticed recently with all the global segment plans, there is an advocacy segment strategy, an industry advocacy strategy being built that all leverages the platform. So I'd say the real switch in people's mind is they've seen it as a channel, like they will see paid media as a channel, like they'll see events as a channel, or as a tactic, I say a channel. But it's like you look at all your marketing activities you can do, and then you will see the gateway firmly inserted in there. So that was when people started to do that. It's like that is real success. From the sales point of view as well, and sales knowing, and from the engineering point of view, it's they will leverage it for very fast, rapid insights. They know they can ask those questions, they can do surveys, they can get that feedback immediately from a whole range of customers. So again, people are using it that way. And then what's really important for us as well is over the 5 years, we've seen the success, we've seen the hard work it's needed to do that and keep that engagement going, but different areas where we're taking it. But equally, we had partners. Now, Cisco doesn't really sell direct. 90% of its business is through our partners. Now, the partners were saying, well, we want to be in there. And we're like, no, because we don't want partners selling and using it as a sales platform to the customer. So we wanted to keep it unique for the customers. But last week, for the first time, we'd launched something dedicated for our partners, but the marketeers within our partners, to enable us to scale and enable us to help with that enablement and actually reduce the complexity of Cisco and help those partner marketeers be the best version of themselves as a marketing skill, but also for them to be better marketeers help their company sell more and be more profitable. So it's actually now morphed and grown, and we've seen the benefits there that we can then apply to the partner community as well.
Excellent. So you touched upon rapid feedback for sales. I think that also applies to the product sides and the value of being able to engage with customers and get rapid feedback about new ideas, new product concept, new features. How is your overall engagement with customers supporting that part of it?
No, absolutely. We have, as you can imagine, a company size, 75,000 employees plus in Cisco. There are quite a few communities, and some real technical communities, some that are private that get heads up on product development or input into product development. So there's a range of communities there, all with the specialists. But I would say the gateway for us is the broadest of community, where if it's not in-depth product details, but industry, country, even segment feedback, that's when everyone can use the gateway as a channel.
Christina, there's all different levels of customer advocacy, or even customer levels. Like they might like your product, they might like the company, but they're not truly raving fans. They're not going out of their way to promote your brand. Is there a magic formula for getting customers that are more passive, happy but passive, but then become raving fans?
Yeah, I think that's a really, really great question, actually. And Emma and I were talking about this earlier today. So what we know and what we've learnt over the years of running this program is that actually there are hundreds, if thousands of customers out there that are naturally representing and advocating your organization for the pure fact that they naturally want to help their peers, but also share their pride in their investment. So like most of us do when we've bought something or when we've invested in something, we like to share with our family, with our friends, with our peers about that decision. So whether it be, I don't know, perhaps a new hybrid car, or, if you're so fortunate enough to buy a Tesla, that might be something that you would want to share with your community. And you'd probably go quite, out of your way to tell your friends and colleagues and your community about your investment and why you've made that decision. But partly because you're proud of it, because you believe in the company and the brand, but also because I think mostly, humanity, we want to help each other, right? We want to see other people succeed. We want other people to benefit from the decisions that we've made. Some people refer to that as a maven in the industry. And I think, we need to, as organizations, and especially in the tech world, we really need to tap into that opportunity and find those natural mavens that already exist out there, because there are so many of them. It's really about finding them and actually giving them the platform and the opportunity to be vocal evangelists on behalf of your brand. And we found that, there are plenty of customers out there that are doing it already. So really it's just about identifying them, nurturing the relationships that you're building with them, and then providing them with a solid platform where they can engage with each other, but also with your brand.
I remembered what I was going to say. So,
oh, sure.
So also how it's evolved. So everything that Christina has said, and many people who may be listening or watching this will recognise when I say, especially in your large company or even in small, salespeople would often put an email out, because it used to be email, put an email out and go, does anyone have a company that has installed this or built this, and in the banking industry or this industry, can anyone help me? And it was just like a mass email that went out to the masses. We've changed that. So if you think, we've got active advocates now, but built, and that's the strength of that engagement in the platform. Now, the real mastery of what Christina is now developing is the ability to link advocates for sales to prospects at a click of a button, and recognize the preferred advocacy method that some of these advocates would like to take. For example, some of them will be very happy to have a phone call with a prospect of ours because they're passionate. We've tapped into that emotional, connection and engagement with them. Others are happy to do a full-blown video case study or a written. They're happy behind the camera, or they might, they might not be. They might be able to be a written testimonial or a small testimonial. But what we want to do with ease of a click of a button, which we're doing with integration into Salesforce, is have that direct connection where sales can request an act of advocacy, if you like, for a particular customer in a particular sector, just by click, click, click and getting. Equally, salespeople will be able to nominate their customers to be advocates as well. So we're really excited about this. It launches in February. That takes it to the next level, and we reduce that amount of time. We get better, more efficient, and hopefully satisfy our prospects and those customers a lot faster.
And is that reference management happening with the Influitive platform or some other tools that you're using?
Yeah, so great question. So as Emma was saying, this is something that we've built over time, because before we even thought about a fuller reference initiative and reference program, we really had to focus on the customer engagement and understanding what was important to them, how customers like to represent Cisco on our behalf. But now we're at that point, we're at that pivotal point where we have these customers that have, identified themselves as, they would act as a reference on our behalf. So what we've done actually is we've invested in a platform called RO Innovation, which is owned by Upland Software. And what the really nice element, or really smart element, I should say, is that apart from the massive benefit to our sales organization and marketing and the whole company, what's fantastic for customers is they will actually get recognized and get rewarded for those activities. So through a connection from the reference management platform to Influitive, we're going to directly reward customers for doing, doing the activities that they're already doing, but actually being able to track and give them something back for doing that on our behalf.
Speaking of giving back, what do your customers think that your program is, whatever you call it internally? Do they view it as a loyalty program, and what are the types of rewards that they could get? Is there training? Is there product discounts? Is it just swag?
Yeah, so it's a variety of all of the things you've just mentioned. So as I mentioned earlier on, over time we've really tried to learn from customers directly what's important to them. So sometimes it could be simple things like swag, which we often do around events, or it's things that are more intangible, experiences, moments that matter that they cannot get elsewhere. So your question, how do they see it? I think they see this program as a customer advocacy program. I think that's becoming a known term, which is different from loyalty. It's different from influencer, but there are of course some similarities. But I think our customers are very, very proud to be part of an advocacy program. They understand that the benefit to their peers, the benefit to them in terms of growing their brand, but they also understand that Cisco is trying to help and nurture the relationship that they have, and provide them with some tangible rewards as well. So things like, as we've mentioned before, tickets to our flagship event like Cisco Live, or training and learning credits, or perhaps a meeting with someone that they wouldn't usually have the opportunity to meet.
Is there any turning back? Is this all a fad, or it's just something that's going to happen for 10 years or so, and then there's going to be something else that comes along in this digital world that we live in?
No, I think it will never go back, I don't think. Christina?
I was just going to say, nobody knows what the future holds. That's the reality. If I think about my career in marketing over the last 18 years, things have obviously changed a lot. I remember in my first ever marketing job where I was having to box up these things that popped up when you opened them in the post. And, that was kind of the idea of marketing, which at the time I thought was absolutely genius. These customers opening cards that, would give them some kind of marketing message. And at the time it seemed like really, really innovative. And of course, 18 years later, thankfully, things have moved on quite a lot. But what I would say is this is obviously very, very innovative today. What's not innovative, I guess, is the pure fact that we need to become a lot more human, right? We need to stop seeming inaccessible. We need to stop seeming so kind of far removed and distant from customers, and we need to show up as, as real people that want to help and support and serve our customers. That, I think, that's not a fad. Who knows what the future holds in terms of digital marketing and technology? I think the reality is none of us know. I'm very excited and interested to see what the future entails. And I think one of the great things about a company like Cisco is that, we're not afraid of change. We're not afraid of adopting new technologies and new ways of reaching our customers in a more authentic way.
Very few in the audience are working at companies the size of Cisco. And they love everything you're saying about, yes, I want to put my customers at the heart. I want to have an engagement program, but I don't know where to start. So what advice can you give to our audience to understand, here's how I start, and what are some of the things that I can do so that you're not trying to eat an elephant and you have no idea where to begin?
The great thing about an advocacy or influencer or loyalty program is you don't have to invest in this, expensive technology. Some people might not like me saying that, but if you're a small business, you absolutely can do this through social media, right? Instagram is a great forum for influencer and for advocacy as well. So small businesses can absolutely take advantage of tools that are out there already. Your normal email marketing strategies as well. Of course, if you really want to get to best in class and you really want to elevate what you're doing, there are technology companies out there and software companies like Influitive and like RO, who we mentioned at the beginning of the session, that they absolutely specialize in this. And it's not just about the technology that they offer, but it's also about the consultancy and the expertise that they're giving you in terms of how to build a truly best-in-class customer advocacy program.
Yeah, and I'd probably add somewhere to start. So why don't you start on your customer stories? Hopefully you're doing them, whether they're videos or they're written. And ask your peers in the industry to critique them. Because sometimes we can't see the wood through the trees. We think all positive. And see if you are being customer obsessed or if you're being company obsessed. And where's the strength? Are you really explaining stuff? So, get some, have a look at a critical eye, if you like, your own critical eye, but ask some validation from friendly folks as well to criticize you. And then you can see where you need to go.
Well, thank you. Those are great places to start, and that's a fantastic way to end. I want to thank Emma and Christina for sharing all of your wonderful insights. I hope you enjoyed this session and the rest of the Customer Catalyst Conference.
Thank you so much, Christina Miluzzi and Emma Roffi from Cisco, discussing their global award-winning customer engagement program. And thank you too to Dan Cote from Influitive, our platinum sponsor for this conference. And now onwards and upwards for other sessions in the conference.